Hi, everybody. Apparently, there's a button in the middle of this selfie stick that adjusts the camera. I get it. I'm not a manual guy. I think it's probably true of men generally. We just like to do trial and error and figure it out. We assume we're born with the information. But I did have something I wanted to talk about with a lot more people coming onto the page and commenting and everything. And I'm really responding to that by I'm going where the market takes me. And, let's be honest, Facebook does have this sort of old fuddy-duddy boomer image, but the bottom line is that it's still the biggest social media platform. So I suppose I should feel lucky that Facebook is where I'm succeeding, and they also have the most payouts. And, again, money that I get just goes back into the program to work on all these projects that I have that I otherwise have no funding for. But since there's more people coming online and are not that familiar with my situation, like just by way of, I'm gonna outline the parties I've been involved with. I think it'd be useful information. I'm gonna do a text post too, because like people will say, I'm now active in the Libertarian Party again. I haven't been that active in recent years, but I'm running for chair, and I'm deciding to get more active. But people will say, "Oh, you're wasting your time. You should go in the Republican Party." Well, which is, there's nothing wrong with that opinion. Okay, I'm beginning to figure out how to use this thing. Yeah, I kind of like higher angle, which I guess whatever. So I'll put a text post out, but also right now. So I'm just going to outline like the parties I've been involved in because I think it will short circuit a lot of discussion, and I think people will understand more where I'm coming from. So I started the first campaign. This won't take very long. It's only going to take a couple of minutes, but I tend to be verbose. The first campaign I was involved with outside of my family, because my father ran for office 7 times. His first time he ran, I was not alive yet. So the first campaign I was involved with beyond the family was 1974. So I was in the Democratic Party. The terminology was different back then, but I was voted most liberal at St. Joe's. I was considered a liberal, but that's a liberal in the 1970s definition, which is, even then, it was not super clear exactly what that meant. So, but in any event, I was a liberal, or I hate to say left-wing, because the term left-wing to me, that's a term of art now, and it's a really bad thing to be left-wing, but I guess I consider myself on the left at that point. So I was in the Democratic Party from 74, 75, 76, 77. I ran for state assemblyman as a Democrat in 1978. I was only 20, but I almost won. In 79, I ran for judicial delegate as a Democrat. I had been elected judicial delegate in 77. I was very active in the reform wing of the anti-machine wing, of course, of the Democratic Party. And even in 1979, I was still active to some extent, although I started to read the libertarian literature and eventually, actually very quickly, switched over to the libertarians. So by 1980, I was actually in the Libertarian Party. I was the chair of the party in Erie County. I was a delegate for Ed Clark, who was the candidate for president. He got 1 million votes. So technically 50,000 New Yorkers voted for me, because in those days you voted for the delegate. They don't even have the delegates on the electors on the ballot anymore. So just so you know, I'm not going to go into detail, but 1974 to 1979, I was a Democrat. And for the left-wing critics of the page, I was a left-wing Democrat. I was a liberal Democrat. I was an anti-war I was a George McGovern, Ramsey Clark Democrat. So when I got these like the current I'm sorry, there's a little cross there. When the current ancestors of 1970s liberals or left-wingers attack me, like, they really have to understand, I was you. I'm not trying to be insulting or arrogant, whatever. I got accused of being arrogant today. But I grew out of your position. Sorry. I was a left progressive, whatever. The terminology's different now and whatever. I was fairly idiosyncratic in my views at that time. But, I campaigned with Ramsey Clark in 1974. He was considered to be about the far left of the Democratic Party. So, all you leftists and liberals, Democrats, progressives, whatever, I was you. I grew out of that. I'm not saying that you have to accept my views now because I used to. No, I'm saying I have a set of argumentation of why I did that. And so, believe me, I think I deserve a little credibility or respect because I was in your position and I flipped. So it's taking longer than I thought, but whatever. I'm just playing around with the new selfie stick. I kind of like it because let me see if it's supposed to follow you around, which it really kind of does. I mean, this wasn't that expensive either. It was like $160. So, but apparently it uses AI, and hopefully unlike the last selfie stick, I'll study the features. So, then here's the thing. I've never been a conservative. I'm not a conservative. If you look at Progressivism, a primer, I have a chapter on conservatism. I explain what's wrong with it, why it has failed, the conservative movement. I explain why some of the leading libertarian figures never became, like Ludwig von Mises, Friedrich Hayek. These people actually, they were mostly associated with conservatives, and so obviously we're talking because there's some commonality, not as much as you might think. But so I've never been a conservative, and so I went from the Democratic Party to the Libertarian Party. 1980, I was in law school. I couldn't be too active. 83, the party split in half. I stayed with the Rothbard faction. I supported Dave Berglund. In 84, Ron Paul ran in 80. I'm giving a panoramic, version of this. 88, Ron Paul was the candidate, not as a Republican, but as a Libertarian. Yeah, I kind of like this selfie stick. All I have to say, it is heavier than the other one. And my arm's getting tired. I suppose that's good. I'll get used to it. I'll bulk up muscle wise. So, but I can deal with it. And doing a shorter podcast too, it'll encourage me to be short because I'll get a little tired of switch hands. So the first time I met Ron Paul was in 88. I later became his election lawyer, way later when he ran for president as a Republican. So then I moved back to Buffalo, and I think it was in 89, maybe late 88, but 89. Now at that point, there was a lot of, I suppose I could make this a complete podcast because I frankly find it kind of interesting historically to talk about this stuff. So, I think I'll post this on, I think I'll make this a archive. So, in 1980, it's hard to explain. We thought we were going to be big time. We got 1 million votes, and that was considered a disappointment. But the previous election, we kind of tripled the vote, and there was money. There was Coke money involved, and I think it was sincere Coke money. Later on, I think the Cokes kind of just, I don't know what happened with the Kochs, but there's a lot of controversy about that. I don't want to waste time talking about it. But we were really high on like our prospects, and then the party split in half. I won't get into why. The split, by the way, this is really interesting. The split that happened in 1983 between the Rothbard faction and the Cato Institute faction, it's never healed. It's never healed. And although I did work for Cato in 1989-90 area, after that did not pan out, through no fault of my own, in my opinion, I went over to the Rothbard faction. I knew Rothbard. Rothbard was a friend of mine. He taught me economics. But I wasn't like that involved with his politics. I was busy, going to law school and practicing law. He spoke at Brooklyn Law School, by the way. So, in any event, I'm trying to focus on the big picture here. But that's split. So after that, I've been basically blacklisted by the Cato. Like, I get nothing from them. Nothing. You think like, gee, Jim, you've written 13 books. You've written like 6 or 7 scholarly articles. You have a podcast. You're a prominent Second Amendment lawyer. What is that Cato faction of the libertarian movement? They must like boost your work and everything. I get nothing. Absolutely nothing from them. Nothing but grief, usually. So that's split. I'm leading to a point. This is interesting. I think it's interesting. The split that happened in 83 never healed. To this day. 1983. It's never healed. And Dave Berglund got a lot fewer votes than Ed Clark because of that split. And a lot of people were thinking this LP thing is not working out. So some people, I can't remember who they were, switching arms, man. This selfie stick is a little bit heavier. I like it, though. The arm extends out more. You won't see my double chin as much as you did in the past. So there was a libertarian Republican movement. So I remember going downtown to register to vote in Buffalo. I believe I registered. Sorry. Got to learn how to do this. There you go. Sorry. Brand new selfie stick. I believe I registered Republican. And they even wanted me to run for county executive, or not county executive, I'm probably just county legislature. I thought about it seriously, and I decided not to. And so from that time on, like the late 80s, all the way to when Larry Sharp got the Libertarians ballot status in like 2018, effective the next year. I remember going online saying, well, I just registered Libertarian, or I just registered Libertarian and switched from the Republican Party. And I didn't mean it to blow up, but it became a big sort of statewide thing because I was fairly prominent, whatever. And people say, yeah, this is good. So my point is that for really a 30-year period, I was heavily active in the Republican Party as a small L libertarian, trying to push libertarianism, small L libertarianism, within the Republican Party. And I'm not going to talk. I'm almost running out of park space. I'm not going to get into details, but the point I want to make is, people who tell me, "Oh no, you shouldn't be active in the Libertarian Party. You should try the Republican Party." It's like, folks, 30 years? And I wasn't just like voting. I was running candidates. I was running campaigns. I was busted my butt for Ron Paul twice. And by the way, libertarians of my ilk will never forget how shabbily Ron Paul was treated by the Republican Party. We have memories like elephants. He was treated like shit. by the Republican Party. So don't tell me I need to go back to the Republican Party and do this. We tried that. We tried it for president. We tried it statewide. But we really tried very hard on the local level. And I won't bore you with the details. Believe me, I could talk about it for hours. And I just one little factoid. The Tea Party movement. We had the Tea Party movement in Buffalo before it existed nationally. We call it the tax revolt. It was active for years. And I was one of the leaders of it. There's some dispute. Other people, well, there were 3 people involved, but even they would admit I was one of the leaders of it. So I think it was 89. Well, I might be mixing up my dates. I apologize. I'm mixing up the dates. I think it was 2009. We're talking about 45 years of political history here. I remember it all clearly. It's just that the dates can be a little foggy. Right after the Tea Party started, nationally, we had we said, well, we'll join up with the Tea Party movement nationally. We'll keep our local thing going, but we'll use Tea Party and we'll try to work with these people. But there weren't any candidates yet. So in '89, we thought that the Republicans were running some pretty good candidates for county legislature. They were new people. They were mostly private sector people. Some of these people are still around. Some of them have faded away. And we actually formed a PAC, had a program, and had these people speak. And we actually gave them a small amount of money, like a couple $100, but in a local race, that's real money. And we supported these people. And we got nothing from it. We weren't looking for graft or jobs. We were looking for, some sort of an alliance with the Republican Party. And the next year, during the Carlo Palladino campaign, things got so squirrely that the Republican Party was trying to move me out of the Carlo Palladino campaign, and they basically succeeded. So, what did I get for supporting Republican Party candidates, many of whom won? I got nothing but fucking grief. So, folks, I'm never going to, never is a big word. Don't tell me, because I'm a pragmatist on strategy, don't tell me to go to work with the Republican Party. I did for 30 fucking years. And it accomplished nothing except I got poorer, older, and my hair got grayer, and I didn't have as much hair. That's all it got me. So no, I'm now currently working with the Libertarian Party, and I have no intention of ever going back. Although again, ever is a big word. So after 2018, now still I haven't really been. I mean, my whole philosophy of politics post 2011. 2011 was the last time I did anything seriously political, really anywhere, in terms of electoral politics. Well, except Ron Paul in 2012. We did that. We brought him to Buffalo, whatever we did. But the last thing I did locally was 2011. There was a special election for Congress. And our guy, won't go into that. That's really an interesting, I could do a podcast on that alone. Fascinating campaign. But after that, I really wasn't that involved in local politics, because I concluded that everything's rigged and we should do direct action. So even though I joined the Libertarian Party and did a lot of legal work for the Libertarian Party, that's a different hat. I really was never a big believer in libertarian electoral activity, and now that I'm running for chair, my whole platform is not to end electoral activity, but to use direct citizen action. And so I hope that I could talk about all of this for hours, really, and I find it interesting. I hope other people would too. So just to cap up, because I'm running out of park space, I'm going to go grab a cup of coffee at Dash's Buy Local for Liberty. That's trademarked, but The whole world is free to use it. Just show me a little love and buy a book every once in a while. So, quick summary. Dad was a New Deal Democrat and then a JFK Democrat. He ran with JFK. He knew JFK slightly. I get in 74. I'm a left-wing, anti-Vietnam War, Ramsey Clark, George McGovern Democrat. Discovered libertarianism in 79. Flipped from that to libertarianism, small l and capital LPL as in party. The party was struggling for about 8 years, so a lot of us went into the Republican Party. For me, it was the first time. I spent 30 years banging away at Republican politics and accomplished nothing. It was not reciprocated. I was treated like shit. Our hero Ron Paul was treated like shit. So then in 2018, and by the way, there was a point there, largely due to George W. Bush, who was a really horrible president, where through inertia. I remained a registered Republican just out of inertia and laziness. But I was beginning to become embarrassed at how bad, this is pre-Trump, at how bad the Republican Party was. I didn't want to be associated with the George Bush Republican Party. So when Larry got the 50,000 votes in 18, I was thrilled to remove that stain, that embarrassment of being associated with this big government warmongering anti-civil liberties party, the GOP. I was embarrassed to be a member of the GOP. Say what you will about Trump. I actually think Trump was a step up from that. I think my views on Trump should be fairly well known. I have a balanced view. When Trump is pro-liberty, I'm pro-Trump. When Trump is anti-liberty, I'm anti-Trump. It's very simple. A lot of people think my views are inconsistent on Trump. They're not. They're very consistent. So, and that leads us up to, I'm running for chair of the National Libertarian Party on a direct action platform. So I hope that clarifies. I hope I didn't bore anybody to death. I hope that clarifies my political background. First Democrat, then Libertarian, then Republican, then Libertarian again, with the same philosophy. After I left the Democratic Party in 1979, I have been a hardcore Rothbardian libertarian since 1979. I've never changed those views. Never changed those views. You change strategies. Strategy is a matter of pragmatism. I had a conversation with a very prominent libertarian the other day, and we both agreed. Strategy is a pragmatic thing. It's pragmatic. So yes, I tried a number of different strategies over the years. I'm trying them all the time, and we'll try them until we either win or my time on Earth has expired. So have a great Sunday, everybody. Thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for making my Facebook page, frankly, one of the centers of libertarian activity on the planet.